Out of the 100,000 plus games in the Steam library, only a tiny percentage of that have the coveted title of overwhelmingly positive. Today I present to you my opinions on 8 of some of the most beloved games on Steam and determine if they've been severely misjudged by the public or are indeed worthy of their upper echelon title. The last one I think you'll really like, and if you don't, then you're probably the problem. Let's start with this game, 100 Hidden Frogs. You're supposed to find the 100 frogs that are hidden, so at least it's accurately titled. But that's all about the positive stuff I can say about this. I think the idea is for finding the frogs to be a relaxing experience, but the music was so stupidly repetitive and way too upbeat to make me feel any sort of calm, and I found myself speeding through the game rather than savoring it, which I don't think is the intended experience. The main objective of the game is also kind of boring. I mean, finding the frogs was fine, but it was just that fine. What would have been super cool is if at the end, after finding all the frogs, a picture came to life through color and maybe some minimal animations of the different creatures in the picture, like these chunks of half-eaten fish. But instead I sat and waited, and then I realized the game had ended.
Oh, it's over, I think.
Maybe this genre just isn't for me because clearly there's enough interest in this type of game to warrant a bunch of sequels where you can find more things that are hiding. But for me, the only thing I got after intensely staring at the screen looking for all these frogs were frog after images seared into my retinas for a good few minutes afterwards. Cute frogs, annoying music, this is not a game, it's just a digitized piece of paper. 2 out of 10, overrated. Babdi, to say the least, is strange. Kinda weird. You're thrown into a concrete oasis in the middle of a desolate and incredibly polluted nowhere, but there are trains with a ticketing machine that's written in Korean for some reason.
This tells you how to use a food disposal.
And your goal is to leave this fucking place. The people look like various iterations of the blobfish when it's beached on land, have panoramic vision, and even though they all look blind as a bat, they have the Super Saiyan ability to instantly snap their attention to you if you approach too close. I don't think their hearing is so good though. I didn't really understand this game, and it's the only game that I actually didn't see through to the finish because quite simply, I hated it. The people were weird, the buildings were weird, the physics were weird, but I was really good at parkour. The only reason I'm putting this after Hidden Frogs is because Babdi actually felt like a game, and the nooks and crannies were a bit fun to explore. Creepy aesthetic, confusing navigation, and seriously? Motion bobbing?
Why is the camera so weird?
3 out of 10, overrated. In Alpaca Stacka, you stack an alpaca on top of a chicken. Stack some chicks on an alpaca, and prance around this deserted island while making what I assume are alpaca noises. You play as an alpaca named Paz, and despite what others may call you, don't you ever forget who you are. And help a mama chicken find all her chicks while she just hangs around near the barn and tells you where she thinks they might be. Repeatedly. She doesn't even notice when you bring some of them back.
Bro, they're already here. Maybe if you look.
The chicks all escape during a party when an uninvited guest acts out of jealousy, which honestly is totally understandable since no one else lives on the island except them, and man, it would really suck to literally be the only one not invited to the party. The stacking part comes in when you find multiple chicks at once, as you can pile them on top of each other, and then they have to play this balancing game while you frolic around on the mushrooms. Eventually, you bring them back to the pen, where they'll stay, even if you give them an opportunity to escape again. The game is very short and sweet, and while I occasionally enjoy mindless gameplay, I think there's a fine line between this is nice, I'm having fun, and am I wasting my life right now? And Alpaca Stacka fell a little bit into the wrong neighborhood. I did get someone an award for their review. I didn't realize I had so many Steam points. What are Steam points? Anyways, cute chicks, kind of. Mushroom jumping is a bit difficult. A feel-good story about not being a shitty exclusive ass hat. 4 out of 10, overrated. The next game, Residents of the Ocean, is what a game would look like if they gamified the hearing test at the doctor's office. But also, what's your IQ? You play as this character who hears things from across the ocean and wants to figure out how to recreate the sound. Monkey see, monkey do. Apparently this game was made in a week during a Unity hackathon in Japan, which is simultaneously sane and insane because while I think the game is really simple and probably wasn't too complex to make, I can't imagine the crazy amount of hours they'd had to pull to make it within a week. Good thing they got awards. The thing that did make this game feel more of like a project than a full game is a lack of continuation in the lore. There are snippets of it mentioned in the game, but it's not really explored, and at the end of it, I'm left doubting if even the boy is real. The gameplay is also pretty repetitive because there's an ability to swap out items in your inventory to try making sounds with something else you find on the ground, but if you want to undo the swap, you have to go back to where the item's original spot was to go get it again. Why can't I just pick up the thing I just fucking dropped just now, for Pete's sake? Cute manga art style, peaceful sound design, repetitive as heck, 4 out of 10 overrated. Next on the list is The Supper. I thought it was a cooking game because of the title, but it turned out to be horror. I must have not been paying attention to the Steam page. Although the title screen took me by surprise, once I got into the game, I found myself really enjoying the puzzles, and the story was surprisingly sweet. Hashtag no spoilers. You play as Miss Appleton, who has pegs for legs and makes food, but there's also a mysterious side character who kind of directs you through the game. The audio was also pretty funny. There were random interjections of loud gasps and squelching noises that you'll just have to imagine because I forgot to record the game audio when during the playthrough like a total noob that I didn't think I was. The overall ambiance was also really well executed because there was this vague layer of confusion throughout the entire game until the very end, which contributed to the suspense. The game creator looks like they've been fairly consistent in putting out new games since The Supper, which seems like their Steam debut. So if you want to go support the dev, go check out some of his other games too. Appropriate soundtrack, surprise, there's a nice story, occasional funny noises, 6 out of 10 worth. Grimm's Hollow is pretty wow. It's a game that was made in RPG Maker, which I don't know what that means, but it did feel like a very condensed mini RPG, so I guess RPG Maker is where you make RPGs. You play as a reaper named Lavender, who is navigating through what I think is the afterlife with her little brother Timmy, who is in the afterlife too, but as a ghost. And if they're able to find his soul, then he can go back to the before life. But he's not the only one who wants a soul. The story had gravitas, and all the characters felt fairly fleshed out, especially Lavender, and there was almost the perfect amount of character dialogue and interaction in the game. The graphics were also super cool, 10 out of 10 for the awesome pixel art. The only thing I didn't like about this game was this red herring of a statement where I was told I needed to clear the dungeon, so I was on the grind for a large portion of the game, which felt confusingly disproportionate to the level of difficulty for the boss fight, but turns out it was all necessary to unlock the true ending to the game, which I know about because someone else got it. Solid story, great pixel art, fun RPG mechanics, and even multiple endings? 9.5 out of 10. Underrated. Okay, so I saved the best for last, Gravitas. A lot of the reviews said it was like Portal, but mini-sized, and there's something about penguins. But I felt like the game was able to stand on its own, and the only thing that really reminded me of Portal was the presence of an AI assistant who would continuously and pleasantly warn of imminent danger. There was conflict, there were puzzles, and there was elevator music that for some reason I found super familiar. All of it combined into a delightful experience where I found myself being sufficiently frightened by the antagonist and confuddled by the puzzles, and I don't know why more people didn't play through to the end. Oh wait, maybe I do. The levels, which are referred to as the gallery exhibits by the curator, each have an aptly named title and are varied enough to keep the solutions interesting and fresh. There are also fun meta moments where the curator would respond directly to things you do in the game. Looking at the achievements, it also seems like the game would support lots of different solutions to solving the puzzles too, which rewards creativity and simulates IRL problem solving. There's also something about sharks. Challenging puzzles, yandere antagonist, mysterious penguins, and what is this about the sharks? 10 out of 10, so underrated. So at this point, you might be wondering,
wait, you said you were going to review 8 games, but you've only talked about 7. Are you bad at counting?
So the answer is no, of course I'm not bad at counting, but the truth is there's actually a final game on this list, and not only do I think it's underrated, but I also think it has a lot of potential for an entire standalone sequel. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you Sheepy, A Short Adventure. This is hands down the best overwhelmingly positive game out of the games I've played in this video because boy oh boy, this is a game. It's a platformer, which isn't exactly my favorite genre. This reminds me of Ori. I hate Ori. But I don't need to love platformers to appreciate the character design, pixel graphics, the depth of lore that's just begging to be discovered, and even the secret collectibles stashed in strategic places throughout the game. But the number one most impressive thing that really stood out to me in Sheepy is the absolute banger of a soundtrack. Or shall we say, the musical score. It ebbs and flows right with the action of the game, and each ability that you gain has its own special musical motif. It stitches in so fluidly with the story of the game and what's happening on screen, which contributes a lot to the ambiance. When you're meant to feel calm, the music gently walks with you to give you a sense of security.
Finally. Okay, what's up at the top?
And when you're meant to feel inspired, the music guides you to the moment of awe and explodes open to paint a scene of epic adventure. The integration of the score into the game is excellently executed, but also the music on its own is just really good. I really liked it, a ton of people on Steam really liked it, and this review really resonates with me. 100 out of 10? How in the world is this free? Wait, Shapey, a short adventure is free, you say? Why yes, surprise! In fact, not only is Shapey a free game, all of the games in this video can be added to your library for the low price of $0. I just made this video for the shits and giggles, but honestly all these games have clearly been made with lots of love and care by the developers, and they've been so generous to put them all up on Steam for free, so go download them, go play them, and support the devs. And then come back to tell me that you agree with all of my opinions because they are all 100% correct. Babdi, what the though?
This toilet is not very skibbity.